Welcome to the Marshall News and Views Show. I'm Elaine Conyers, and my special guest today is Ben Martig, who is the Marshall City Administrator. Welcome. I know you've been on a couple times here, and you've had your own show, but we're getting together today because tomorrow, Friday, is your last day in Marshall, and a lot of us are really upset about that. We're sad about it. But at the same time, we're very grateful for all the things that you have done for our city. And we look around, and you've done so much economically to build the economic state of the city, but also culturally. And that a lot of people have noticed. And we'll be talking about some of the projects that you've been involved in. But first, I just wanted to mention to our viewers and reiterate the fact that you're the type of person that has vision. You have the energy to go forward, and you know how to do it, and you get it done. And, you don't find that with everybody, and you have just done such a fantastic job for our city, and we have grown so much, and there's so much a good feeling about Marshall, just not only with the city, but the surrounding area. And so let's talk about some of these projects that you worked with. The first one that comes to my mind is the sports arena, and that a huge project, and it's just about done.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Elaine, for those kind words. Let me first start by just addressing that. I really appreciate the kind words that you shared. It's always a pleasure being on the show and speaking with the listeners, and it's so good. It's so great to read your columns every week on the history of the city of Marshall and the area, and what you do with the News and Views show is just tremendous. But yeah, the city administrator's role, I think, a lot is. I'm one piece of the puzzle. A lot of times the city administrator kind of connects the dots and identifies opportunities and brings people together. So, while I appreciate that you liked me here, there'll be someone who comes in here and does a great job. And the good thing is there's a huge network of people doing great things in Marshall, and there's a strong history of partnerships. And I guess with that kind of theme, I guess a lot of the kind of looking back, as you talk about the Red Baron Arena and Expo and the Amateur Sports Center facilities, that certainly, when I came here, I can kind of vividly remember coming in and being sat down with some of the leaders of the project. There had already been a lot of work done to analyze and determine that they wanted to get Marshall designated as a regional amateur sports center to try and drive people here, build off of the assets you have to get people to kind of be the economic boon to bring people to the community to spend money, and then try and utilize those people that are here with their youth to experience the community, maybe see the university, Southwest Minnesota State University, to see that as a nice facility, and maybe draw them in through the students, and then hopefully get them to go through and stay in the community after they graduate. So kind of looking at a multifaceted benefit to that certainly spoke to me as something that made a lot of sense. And they had kind of gone through a review to determine what sports they thought needed to grow and would draw the most people. And that's where they kind of came up with the hockey and continuing to expand on the youth and other sports facilities. So I certainly recognized it as a good opportunity. It was a very complex project. It took multiple legislative sessions to get the authority to even have the local sales taxes to pay for it. We didn't identify early on. That was pretty clear to me that if we're going to do this project, you're going to need a significant source of funds beyond property taxes. And Marshall had never had a local option sales tax historically, where most regional centers across the state would have had these in place. So I certainly helped explain some of that and got the legislative authority, took multiple sessions. It was really complicated in the fact that we had the Merit Center combined in with the project, where the finances are kind of commingled both on the construction and operations. So, it creates certain challenges, but certainly I think in the construction of it's gone through a long history too, from the early visions and what we could afford, and then dealing with surprises along the way with the project and trying to manage through those. But I think in the end, as you near completion and get ready for the open house, I think the community is going to be blown away by the quality of this facility and it's much more. I know a lot of people call it the ice arena, but it truly is, I think, the community civic center as well, because you'll see on the main rink and the main space, it's going to be a wonderful asset to host community type events on those off-season hockey times of the year as well. So certainly was a fun project to work on. It was challenging. I have less hair and much more gray hair than when I started.
Probably.
Much to do with that project. So
yes, of course. Yeah, nothing like that is ever easy, because you get a lot of opinions that are thrown at you, and they're not always pleasant, but got through it,
right.
And it's just about completed, and then, like you say, there were so many other things too, like the Merit Center came about that same time, and that's such a tremendous project for the region too, and of course. Not only were you involved as a city administrator, but also as the EDA person, along with Cal Brink, who is manager of the Marshall Area Chamber of Commerce. And EDA meaning Economic Development, what's the A for?
Economic Development Authority.
Authority, that's the word, yes. And so you really had two jobs, and because of that, you really got a lot done. What are some of the other things that you did?
Well, I'll follow up on your economic development. We did have some budget crises I dealt with while I was here. Local government aid went through major reductions when the economy kind of went in the tank with the recession, and then Palenti, as governor, ended up doing an unallotment to cities where it really forced us to make some major changes. Fortunately, we managed that without major impacts, I don't think, to the operations. The community didn't really see much there. One of the outcomes of that is, too, we went through some changes in our economic development partnerships, where we created this partnership between the Chamber of Commerce. It ultimately ended up including the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And the city EDA kind of went together and really created a wonderful organization. And a lot of that's a testament to Cal Brink. Sometimes it's the right person that can make the difference, but I think that by us pooling our money, we all got a lot stronger together. Everybody gave up a little bit of control and maybe had to allow some of the work to be done in the different areas. But I truly think that that's been a wonderful benefit. And it's been a model that a lot of other communities have been envious of, and Cal's presented endless number of presentations there. So I think it's that's definitely been a positive thing with that. But I guess there's a whole host of projects that I'm proud of, but certainly that economic development is one of them.
Really, exactly, So, well, let's see, you. I know you've done more than all of this, but I can't keep track of it.
Well, let me go here. I'll talk about some of the challenging projects. When I came here, the library was one, that was certainly challenging because the community had kind of come to a stalemate on what to do with the library project, and I think that was the right timing for somebody to come in fresh. And I was able to kind of serve a little bit as a mediator between the city and the county. The generous contributions of the Carr family that led a number of other private dollars that have also been raised on that. And we ended up getting a project completed, and everybody kind of gave a little bit and kind of agreed to give up some of the things that maybe they were holding on to, and the sale of the hospital occurred right around that time, which some of the proceeds of that helped to build the library too. It provided us an additional cash flow, which we also put a new endowment fund that the city has that's being used to pay for that repayment of the bond debt on the library. And it's a little bit of the money still goes to special projects. It's done irrigation at the Liberty Park. It's provided iPads at the Adult Community Center. It helped pay for some of the performance stage that we had to purchase last year, the mobile performance stage. Once the library bonds are paid off, there's going to be a large chunk of money in a number of years down the road that this community, it will be a really unique thing for the city to have available. So, that's certainly something I'm proud of, the fact that that there was a lot of challenges with that project. Kind of along those lines too, the Camden Regional Trail. Whenever you get multiple political jurisdictions working together with the county and the city, we were able to kind of come together and get that trail built, along with the city of Lind and the townships being on board and getting state grant funds for that. So I think that one too, like we haven't quite had the opportunity to market it completely yet because we've been so focused on the construction, but there's going to be signage going up this summer. We hope to complete the last segment of the trail behind the golf course if we're awarded the last portion of the grant funds. It will be I know the Convention and Visitors Bureau is working on new bike maps to show kind of this Camden Trail and where it is, and so I think that's certainly one too that had some challenges. But
when is that going to really open, officially open?
You know, I don't think they've scheduled the grand opening, but I think we want to get that last segment completed and then do the grand opening. But certainly they are doing some promotions of that, but I think that's a good question. I think a ribbon cutting might be in order on some of those trail projects. That's right, yeah. Absolutely.
So, and it's interesting, I just have to add a little tidbit here that one of my daughters goes on a trip across Iowa, a bike trip across Iowa. Well, last year they wanted to come to Marshall. Well, we weren't ready. So they're coming this summer. But then they want to put up tents in my backyard. And I said, we've got Independence Park. There's where you can be.
Well, there you go.
But anyway, I think they wanted to be near a bathroom, and I said, I'm sure there will be bathrooms out there. So
oh, that's good.
It's just kind of interesting. Well, another project that you finished up, or the city finished up, was the building and opening of the new liquor store. And as we speak, there's an artist out there now doing murals, right?
That's right. So, yeah, the liquor store project was one kind of a fun side project. Well, I shouldn't say side project. It was a major project. Yeah. It had been on the list for a long time in need. And, municipal liquor is a little bit of a unique entity. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of benefits for it. One is to control the sale of alcohol. There's studies to show that if you have one central source, there's less likely that it will get into the hands of people who shouldn't be consuming it, like minors. There are some negative effects of it, so there's some benefit to not have it all over the place in the community. The second thing is obviously the profits from the store help benefit the community. Yes. The community has benefited from it. It helped $1 million went into the library project to get that done, so that was an important source of funding. Sure. But at some point, you have to reinvest in your business, even if you're a monopoly, which is what our municipal liquor store is in the city of Marshall. And the store was way overdue for reinvesting in itself. So went through a process and ended up building the new store, found a new location for that. And, I think wanted to make sure that it was something that also expressed the values of the community, which is kind of where we came up with the Tallgrass Liquor theme. Right. We wanted to not necessarily say it directly that it's a municipal liquor store, but be able to show that, we wanted something to be proud of, an attractive building, a good shopping environment, and they're finishing up with some murals out there with an artist, so we encourage people to check that out. That's right. But kind of the swan song, I guess, on that project, kind of to complete it all. Yes. So it's been a fun one. And I think we're up about the first quarter of this year, we're up a little over 11.5% on sales for the year. So far, so good. Yeah. And we've heard a lot of positive feedback from customers, too, just on a much nicer facility. Oh, and the vendors, too. They just are blown away. And they're like, in fact, I was just out there today, and one of the vendors pulled me aside and said, I wish more municipals took pride in their stores like you guys did, because, this is really a nice building. And and I think it's been a major transformation. So, so there's that, and then what are some of the other things? Event-wise, I think one thing that stood out was the Memorial Park project. Oh, yes. I mean, that certainly was wonderful to see that project take shape, to see all the private donations come in. The city actually had a kind of a matching dollar amount with that, but the private donations is really what made that happen. And the fact that they had that 9/11 beam, and it's really become kind of the central park for the city. I mean, it's really beautiful, and I think the event itself for the 10-year anniversary was really moving, and really appreciated that, and it will stick in my mind as one of those key events that really told me the soul of the community. So. It was a really fun project. Yes, and then along with that, we've got actually several city parks that are really interesting and to go to. And in fact, in today's paper, someone wrote about, or maybe it was Facebook, wrote about the Liberty Park, which used to be the Whitney Park. That, of course, Whitney was the founder of Marshall. Yeah. But that has been there for a long, long time, and it's nice as people come and drive into town, they see that beautiful park. Yeah, and speaking of the Whitney statue, I was fortunate to be involved
There.
in that, along
Yes.
with some of the arts projects,
Yeah.
the mural projects at Community Services were kind of the spearhead leaders on
Yes.
that, along with MAFAC, and
Yeah.
I think it's been really a wonderful improvement to the community to add some of those public arts. It's happening really not only in Minnesota but across the nation. Minnesota passed the legacy amendment that brought in more dollars, and
Sure.
we actually applied and got funding for a lot of those projects that
Yeah.
were included on that. And you're seeing it's a national and a worldwide phenomenon with all the public arts things going on. And so it's not unusual that it's happening here. And I think, I think we've done a nice job of coming up with ones that were appropriate for the community that people were proud in. I know some people like ones more than maybe others and
Sure.
things, but
Yeah.
I don't think anybody found any of them offensive or, I think they're going to become a little more close to their heart over time as well. So, I think it adds interest, and I think you were saying before we got started, Marshall's always been known as kind of a sports community, but maybe starting to spread its wings a little bit and getting into the arts and some of that as well, which I think is certainly helpful.
That's right. And we can thank MAFAC, too, for getting more involved in that kind of thing for our community, because I've heard a lot of people comment on that. And everybody likes sports, but they also like to see something else besides that.
You've seen music start to kind of grow. I think that's an area we helped the financing of the mobile stage that can be brought throughout the community. So the community band that plays, they've got a new stage. You'll be able to bring in, Brow Brothers had kind of at their Hot Fest had it. The Sounds of Summer, since I've been here, has continued to grow over time. And I think Marshall, as part of being a regional center too, you want to be a center for arts and entertainment. So to be a draw for entertainment types of things like that, I think would be a positive thing, and certainly starting to see that start to take shape as well.
Yeah. And I think, too, that so many times, over the years, people from Marshall, they leave town on weekends and go to other communities for celebrations and all that thing. And when we've been promoting Marshall as a regional center, and including our little towns that are around us. When I first came to Marshall, everybody hated Marshall because they got everything kind of. They had that attitude. But now, of course, they could come here and work, and they could still live in their own community, and which was smaller and maybe less expensive and everything. And so people have gotten more welcoming towards Marshall. But then I've also run across people that will stop me and say, you're always bragging about Marshall, but you don't even have a lake there. And I said, but we've got one at Cottonwood, and we've got one at Lake Chautauqua and so on. Oh, yeah, that's right. So the thinking has changed, too.
I think that's a good attitude. A regional center kind of grows up a little bit when it doesn't have to worry about some of those forces or get into that, because the way I look at it, we've had examples where just to name a couple of the cities, Cottonwood and Tracy has a number of major employers, and there are people that go to work there. Ballatin's seen some growth on Rauco Nutrition has had some growth over in Ballatin, and while we like to have as much as we can happen here in Marshall, I think it's healthy that we say good for you, and if those communities are healthy, it only helps Marshall as well. Because some people are looking for different things in a community too. Sure. That like you said, there might be certain things that they're looking for that you can't get in Marshall or vice versa. I think everybody should be working together, because in Southwest Minnesota, we're not seeing a lot of population growth as a whole, and Marshall and Lyon County is one shining star out of that. We really need to work together and cheer each other on with that to be successful, because we're not competing with each other. We're competing with, outside the region and the world on a larger stage, and you want to continue to grow. So I think investing in communities and or investing in facility assets that young families want, millennials are looking for. I think those are important things, and so certainly I think working together cooperatively is a important part of that.
And just jumping back a little bit to the Schwann's sports, Red Baron, I need to say Red Baron Sports Arena, with the tournaments being held in Marshall in this region. Now we're going to pull from a vast region, excuse me. And before that, Marshall has not always had hockey, but they have certainly participated and gone to the tournaments. But they had to go up to the Schwann Center in Blaine. Mm-hmm. That's where all the tournaments were. Well, now all those people in the surrounding area can come to Marshall. What a wonderful thing that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're still going to have teams leaving town to go play other places, but the good news is they're going to be coming here to play sometimes too.
That's right.
I know with that Red Baron Arena and Expo, that's a high enough quality facility. You will get people from the Twin Cities and Sioux Falls and other areas coming to play there because we've heard from them and they've seen it. It's nice and they want to be a part of that. And sometimes too, sometimes as a smaller community, you're a little closer to things. You can kind of lay out the red carpet and be a little more connected with people than in the larger city where you're just kind of another, so I think that's an important part is how does a community embrace these visitors and provide really good customer service and say hi and be friendly and, get to meet people. So if you're at the restaurant, making sure that, that there's good customer service there. Elaine, I'm sure you're the type of person to go up to a visitor and say, hey, what are you here for? You look like maybe you're not from here. Can I help you? I'm curious what you're up to. Like, people love that kind of thing, and you don't get that when you're in the Twin Cities, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so those can be the little things that can maybe bring them back or make them say, you know what, that's maybe a place I want to live or a place I want to go to college. And so those little things add up, and I think that's important.
And I think that what we've seen over the years, too, kids from the high school graduate and they want to leave. Well, that's always been the trend. But now they just go across town and go to the university here. Or even if they have left town in about 10 years, we see them coming back. They want to have their family live in a smaller community, but still a very vibrant community. And so we've seen a lot of kids returning to Marshall, and that's such a good thing.
Absolutely. I mean, what better place is there to raise a young family?
That's right.
My two boys were very young when they came here, and they've been provided a wonderful education while they've been here and great experiences, a safe community.
Yes.
So from that standpoint, Marshall is just a gem and certainly something to be proud of. And like you said, who wouldn't want to raise a family in a community like this? And
now that raises the question, and in your leaving, but there are other opportunities out there too, and as I'm sure people know, you're going to the community of Northfield, which is a very nice and charming community. I spent a lot of times over there. It's just a wonderful place. Plus, and it's close to the Twin Cities too. The rest of us have to make a 3-hour trip to get to the cities.
That's right, and I've talked about that too. A little bit about my plans, and it's a lot of it. The good thing about Northfield is it is got the small town kind of feel. It's closer to the metropolitan area. But I'm not just going to be close to the metropolitan area. It actually is kind of tied in with the family piece where we've got some real strong family connections in that area. And it's going to be really close and convenient for us. And ultimately, I guess a lot of times administrators don't stay forever, and you'll find a good one to fill in the place. But for me, it was kind of a personal. It had nothing to do professionally or anything with the community. Marshall is just wonderful, and but I'm looking forward to the future as well. And and I'm excited for Marshall because people bring different skills to the table, and the next person will have some things to offer that I didn't. So,
and you. It's really nice community, like I say, and if people were going to leave, that's a wonderful community to go to, because it is a very charming.
Maybe I'll come back here again someday. Maybe I'll retire here.
There, you never know. Or maybe your kids will decide to go to SMSU or something like that.
There you go.
Well, what else would you like to say about your years? In fact, how many years have you been here?
I came in July of 2008, so I've been here for a number of years. Got a lot of good things completed. I don't know, on my little list here, we did a lot of industrial park build out. Those were that was certainly exciting. We got a lot of grants and seen some major business expansions. So, like, one piece of advice is that cities sometimes can be a little bit like business. You have to take risks in order to grow sometimes, and sometimes things pan out, and sometimes they don't pan out. But if you just do nothing, there's pretty good certainty that the results are going to be nothing.
That's
So,
right.
with the industrial park, we reaped some rewards on that. That was certainly something. Some challenges along the way. We had a major storm that came through, and I think the city handled that windstorm pretty well. And dealt with that cleanup of that issue. So that was something that was certainly a learning experience through that, and survived that with some great leadership from the mayor and our fire department, police department, public works, and the community. So that was certainly something I'll look back on. Probably another project that maybe has been a focus area of the community where maybe there wasn't always agreement and some friction was the Saratoga and Highway 23 project.
Oh, yes.
In my mind, a little bit kind of like the underpass that's going to be named after the late Steve Strouts. I won't get into that project, but was part of our safety enhancements along the corridor. I live south of Saratoga Street and crossed it every day with my family. And so I knew very well firsthand the dangers of that intersection. And the overpass with highway overpass was looked at, but was not going to be cost effective. It would have cost $15 million. We would have had to have acquired a number of properties to get demolished, and it wasn't going to work out. It was a practical solution. We got an overpass of pedestrians where I know that people were skeptical that people were going to use it. That bridge has pedestrians going over it every day, and there's going to be more and more of them this summer, I can tell you. The intersection design, it was new to people, so they're learning it still a little bit. But I clearly have seen my blood pressure does not go up when I drive to that intersection anymore. It is a night and day difference. There has not been, knock on wood, there has not been an accident at that intersection yet today since it opened November, and it opened at a time when we had a major snowstorm going on. And which made me really nervous, but we got through that, and I just think it is a wonderful project. I know there are doubters out there who still don't maybe believe in that project. We did end up adding some components. The bridge was enhanced to make it look a little nicer, partly in respect to the neighbors that lived in the area. We really wanted to be sensitive to that. And then also, it's serving really as a community identification sign. We had removed a number of them along the way, and I don't think maybe everybody understands either that instead of building new community identification signs, we decided to light the City of Marshall's name on the bridge. So we kind of killed two birds with one stone with that bridge by incorporating a sign in with the bridge. So I think we were trying to be useful with people's money, and I'm really proud of the project, even though I know there had its challenges, and it was certainly unfortunate during the project that there was a couple of fatalities that occurred of some people in our community, and that was, one of the really big challenge of dealing with the communications of that issue. And certainly accidents occur, and there was private data related to those accidents that we couldn't talk about publicly that made them unique, but tried to get the information out there and work through a major construction year, I guess, to get the project through. But that's probably one, too, I guess, that I look at. But, looking ahead for Marshall, I kind of look to the future, and, I don't have any regrets, but I see there's opportunities. City Hall and the Marshall Hotel certainly will be, from a capital project standpoint, something that needs to be something done with, and I wasn't able to work on it. It'll be an exciting project for somebody, and the buildings in both those buildings are in tough shape, and I think some of the things like that are happening now with communications with the Studio One, and I think that we've only scratched the surface in better connecting with residents through social media and other forms of communications, both internally and externally. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I guess with that, it's really been a pleasure, and we could probably go on for an hour on all the different things to do, but we don't have an hour.
We don't have. Well, it's been just wonderful to have you here and get to know you, and we certainly wish you well in your new location, and we hope you'll come back and visit us and come back for some of our major events.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you to the listeners. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your city administrator since 2008. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Oh, thank you very much. Bye.